Thank you for attending my presentation, Incumbency Effects, an examination across time periods and regions of India. Incumbency has been the subject of much investigation in numerous countries. By and large, the approach has been to estimate incumbency effects at the aggregate level. That is, for the set of all elections held in a country over a period of time. Very little effort has been made to examine if incumbency effects have changed over time or whether they differ across the different regions of a country. This paper takes a step in this direction by examining incumbency effects over time and across the different regions of India. I employ regression discontinuity design to identify treatment effects, where the treatment is understood as whether the political party is an incumbent or not at the time of an election. The treatment labeled as indicated on the screen, with I referring to the constituency in which the election takes place, T being the time period, and P the political party. If the margin of victory is positive in the election in time period T, the party has its candidate in office during the election in period T+1, as indicated by equation 1 on the screen. Result is an outcome variable. It is binary and depends on the incumbency status of the party, as indicated by equation 2. Graphically, the coefficient of incumbency, as abbreviated as shown, provides a jump in the regression line given by the equation at margin of victory equal to 0. Covariates may be added to equation 2 to control for other factors that may affect the results of the election. The covariates considered in this paper are total number of voters registered in a constituency, literacy rate of the state in which the election takes place, share of rural population of the state in which the election takes place, and real per capita income of the state in which the election is held. I follow a three-step process to analyze the incumbency effect using RDT. I first test if it is possible for political parties to manipulate the running variable, namely the margin of victory. Margins of victory considered are set at 5%, 2%, and 1%. An important point to consider over here is that as the percentage reduces, the number of elections that get chosen for estimation keeps going down. So number of observation becomes an issue at low margins of victory. I then check for the continuity of covariates which have a relationship, which may have a relationship with the running variable. The final step is to examine the effect of incumbency on the outcome variable. The data that I have used covers India's national parliamentary elections from 1980 to 2014, yielding a total of 10 elections. Even though we have data on elections starting from 1980, the data set used for estimation begins from 1984 due to the presence of the lag variable, namely the margin of victory. To ensure that there is an incumbent in each election, I include only such elections in my data where the same two political parties have been winners and runners-up in successive elections in a constituency. Using this criterion, the paper studies 2,180 elections spread across the states of India. I first report the incumbency effect over time, and I divide my entire time period into numerous subsets as indicated at the top of the screen. So for instance, a time period 1984 to 2014, 1984 to 1990, and so on. And then I also use breakpoints or potential breakpoints such as 1991, so elections held before 1991 and after. Likewise for 1996 and 1999. The results indicate that the time period under consideration is not important for estimating the incumbency effect. There isn't strong evidence of the presence of either positive or negative incumbency effect. The only possible exception to this are the elections till 1996, which show strong negative incumbency effect, and elections after 1999, which show a positive incumbency effect. My results differ from those of Linden, who had found a breakpoint in 1991, with incumbents enjoying an advantage prior to 1991 and a disadvantage after that. I further go ahead and look at incumbency effects region-wise. The regions that I have considered are Hindi, which refers to the state in which Hindi is the language spoken by the majority of the population. By implication, I also have a non-Hindi group, which refers to all the rest of the state in which Hindi is not spoken. My next grouping is South, which are the states in the south of India, and there is also a category non-South. I have the region Coastal, which is the states along the eastern and western coasts of India, and naturally the counter to that, non-coastal. There is the grouping called the Bimaru, which is used as pejorative for states listed on the screen and which have had low levels of development. And then there is Peninsula, which consists of the states in the peninsular part of India and listed on the screen. Our results indicate that in the Hindi grouping, we find robust evidence of incumbency disadvantage. The South grouping shows strong evidence of incumbency advantage. Bimaru shows robust negative incumbency effect and is very similar to the Hindi grouping. Among the other grouping, there isn't a strong evidence of incumbency, especially when the margin of victory is reduced gradually towards 1%. My final exercise is combining region-wise and time-wise analysis. I examined region-wise incumbency effect over 2 time periods. The first one, 1984 to 1999, and the second, 2000 to 2014. For the first time period, 1984 to 1999, there is strong evidence of negative incumbency effect in the groupings of Hindi, non-coastal, Bimaru, and non-peninsula states. For the latter period, 2000 to 2014, there is strong evidence of positive incumbency effect in the groupings of non-Hindi, coastal, non-Bimaru, and peninsula. To conclude, considering all elections held in India over the time period 1984 to 2014, we find no evidence of incumbency effect. However, there is some indication that the year 1999 and the year 1996 may represent breakpoints in Indian elections, with negative incumbency effect prior to 1996 and positive incumbency effect after 1999. Considering region-wise and time-wise incumbency effect, the groupings Hindi, non-coastal, Bimaru, and non-peninsula shows incumbency disadvantage until 1999, but this disappears in the subsequent time period. The groupings of non-Hindi, coastal, non-Bimaru, and peninsula, which had shown scant evidence of any incumbency effect prior to 1999, show a pronounced incumbency effect after this year. This is a partial reference list. The font size is rather small. I wanted to fit it all in one slide. Thank you very much for listening to my presentation.